All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to look at the JFK assassination in an interview with J.E. Files, who was recently questioned in a lot of ways of was this man telling the truth, right? I mean, his interview is very interesting, and his story does line up with a lot of the things that were going on at that time. So let's take a look at this video. I'll post it in my chat. I'm going to share it real quick and we'll watch a little bit of this. And the guy definitely knows what he's talking about when it comes to weapons and other things. So let's check this out real quick. All right, let me make sure this is working. All right, let me post this in my chat, this channel. And I forgot to put it in the description box, and I will here as I'm going along. All right, let's watch this bad dog. Let's listen to some of it. Make sure I got my volume right. I'm going to mute. Yo, Debbie, can you hear the video playing? Hello. Let me know if you can hear it. Thank you. Hi, Miss Help. How you doing? We are reviewing some of the interview with J.E. Files. Very interesting.
What happens when you drink Rise mushroom coffee? First, you start to feel your mood shift.
Sorry about that.
But I went down like a week before the assassination. The purpose of that was for me to go to Dallas, look over the area, learn dead-end streets, railroad crossings, time for train crossings. They already knew the regular motorcade route that he would be taking.
President's car is now turning onto Elm Street, and it will be only a matter of minutes before he arrives at the street light.
I said, well, the spot I like best is up on the grassy knoll behind that stockade fence. He says, why there? I said, I got the railroad yard for cover. At 100 feet, I'm talking about we're shooting now from the grassy knoll down to the highway to the street there. We're talking roughly 30, 35 yards. We're only talking 100 feet. This is like shooting fish in a barrel. As I was walking away, he told me, don't run. He said, just walk away natural, Jimmy. He said, don't show no attention.
The President of the United States is dead. It's official, as of just a few moments ago.
There was nobody behind that stockade fence but me at that point. Nobody. All the time I was there, I was alone.
I'm pulling in now towards Parkland Hospital, coming to the approach. The officer waiting me down. He's waving me around. They're recording. There's already a cordon of police officers.
A bullet right through the head.
I didn't shoot anybody, sir. I haven't been told what I'm here for. You have a lawyer? No, sir, I don't. No, they're taking me in because of the fact that I live in Missouri. I'm just a patsy.
There's the man with a gun.
All right, I have a question. How many of you think that it was a magic bullet, one bullet, that hit the president and then the people in the front seat? How many of you think it was one bullet that did all that damage? Go ahead and leave a comment in the chat. Let's get back to this. And the only reason I'm interviewing or reviewing the JFK files is because you people insist that conspiracies are not real, and even his own family said it was a conspiracy. So we're going to watch it and go over it, and let's get back to this. I'm on mute, so I do remember that day you were on the front lawn, Miss Kel, you, and we were so in love, but we were teenagers back then. We had nothing to lose. And of course, people filmed us, but that was all part of the 60s. Let's get back to this video.
I'm fixing to lose my fill of fire. And at this point, either I shoot or I can put it in a suitcase and leave. One or the other. I took the shot.
What is your real name?
My real name is James Sutton.
And you were born when?
I was born January 24th, 1942 in Alabama. And if you find my birth certificate, it will plainly state deceased at birth.
How was that arranged?
I have no idea, but I was trying to get a birth certificate for my own records, and they could not.
All right, now I want to draw some attention to his real name, James Sutton, which Suttons are a very big name, but he went underneath the alias of James Files. Okay, within the government, the FBI, that's what he was known as. But his real birth name was James Sutton, which, like I said, the Suttons are a big name in America. So let's continue with this.
Not locate one at first. And the lawyer in Alabama went through everything, went to the Capitol, and when he got through, he found that 3 months later, I had a birth certificate in there that says deceased at birth.
Now, can the mob do something like that, or is that the government?
That's only the government. Mob knows a lot of things. They got ways to get things done. But when it comes into this kind of stuff, that's out of their category. I'm going to tell you, when it comes to government and underhanded work, the mob, they're kindergarten. They're kindergarten. I might upset a lot of people in the family saying that, but they're kindergarten when it comes to working with the government.
Is it true that during the Clinton administration that you were presented as a threat to national security?
That was in 1998. Historian for the 82nd Airborne. He was doing a lot of research area on me. His name was John Grady, but he did a lot of research on me and checked through a lot of people, found out me to be credible. He verified a lot of things that him and I discussed. He come here to visit me. And when him and I was corresponding, he was approached by the Secret Service. And they warned him that I was a threat to national security. And in 1998, I don't remember what month it was, but Janet Reno and President Bill Clinton at that time declared me as a threat to national security. It was basically for training manuals and formulas and information they retrieved out of one of my storage sheds when they raided it.
So, boy, today under Homeland Security, they probably have you as a terrorist threat since you know how to make bombs.
That could be. I know there is a U.S. Marshals detaining on me at this time.
U.S. Marshals, what?
There is a U.S. Marshals detaining on me at this time.
What does that mean?
That means the day I walk out of here, the U.S. Marshals will be here to pick me up. They want to talk to me. There is no outstanding charges. There's no charges against me. What they have against me is a detainer. All they want to do is talk to me. What they want to know is they want to be notified when I leave here, in other words.
Get the electrifying Honda of your dreams during Happy Honda Days.
When Joe West first originally contacted me here at Stateville Prison, I was on a visit. The counselor came in the visiting room where I was at and stated that she wanted me to come out and make a phone call. I told him, you have 3 minutes to convince me why I should talk to you. As Joe started talking to me, I told him, I said, whoa, stop. I said, you're on a lot of touchy spots. I said, these phone calls are recorded. Every phone call going in and coming out is recorded. If you want to talk to me that bad, then I suggest you come and visit me. Joe West had me put him on his visiting list. He come up to visit me. The first day, I wouldn't even talk to him about the Kennedy situation. We got into sports, weather, generally about prison, local things till I got comfortable with him. The next day, after I thought it over all night, Joe West seemed like a pretty nice guy. I really liked Joe. He had a magnetism about him. The next day, we sat down, we got serious, and then we started talking. Oh, I asked him, he said that someone had informed him that I was there. He said he had a reliable source. And I didn't know for quite a while who that source was. It was quite some time later before I learned the fact that the FBI was aware of my presence as early as 1964. Because I never knew that anyone ever knew about me. But Zach Sheldon, from what I understand, and I'm only quoting this from hearsay, that Zach was the one that stated and gave me to Joe West the information on me that I was in Dealey Plaza. Well, the whole thing is, like with Joe West died. He passed away, never knowing that I was one of 2 shooters there in Dealey Plaza that day. Joe West never knew I was on the grassy knoll. Joe West had the case in court. He wanted to exhume John F. Kennedy's body. And that's what he was fighting for. And at this point, when I talked to Joe West, I explained to him that John F. Kennedy had been hit in the head with a mercury round, a special load. At this point, I explained to him he can use this in the courts to have the body exhumed because there would still be traces of mercury, because the traces of mercury do not disappear. It'll always be there. And so this is what Joe West wanted to go back with more evidence and use this to get Kennedy's body exhumed, to look for traces of mercury.
And the court had accepted his case.
The court had accepted his case. But with his death, the case died.
All right, so Mr. Sutton claims that he took a shot at Kennedy, and there was other people there, right? He also claims that they wanted to dig up the body of Mr. Kennedy so they can run traces for mercury, because he used mercury dip weaponry, bullets. So there would have been traces of that, possibly, but maybe not, because the bullet did so much damage. And I don't know if they ever found that bullet. Would there be traces of it on the remaining flesh around the wound or whatever? I don't know. But here's somebody that is telling the world that these kind of things exist, right? That's what these guys use. So, and I've heard of mercury-filled loads before. Why? I have no idea, but I don't know. But let's listen more on this. And I think he explains why he chose to dip the bullets in a mercury. And with such a high-powered weapon, there was nothing left, right? The bullet went clear through, and I don't know if they ever found that bullet, if this is all true what he's saying. So let's continue.
I've been drinking this water for the past 12 years with radium in it, so has every prisoner here. We wasn't aware of the water situation until Oliver Stone come along to make a movie here. And when he made his movie here, we see all these people from the movie company running around carrying bottles of water. Even the officers that worked here, they got suspicious. And that's when we started finding out this water's unhealthy.
Did you actually meet with Oliver Stone?
I met Oliver Stone 3 times. Matter of fact, I have a paper that Joe West, not Joe West, but Bob Vernon had Oliver Stone sign. Now, Bob Vernon come in after the Joe West deal. Bob Vernon took over for Joe West. Bob Vernon met with Oliver Stone, and he had him sign an agreement where they wanted to get me on film, but I refused to do that. I met with Oliver Stone 3 times.
And you never told him your story?
No, I did not tell Oliver Stone my story. I refused to discuss it with him. And like I said, I've got a copy of this. I got Oliver Stone's signature. Bob Vernon's the only signature on it. It states what it's all about. The only thing missing is my signature, because I would never sign that paper for the agreement.
Why was that?
I didn't like the man.
Case closed.
Case closed. And if you'd like, I'd be more than happy to send you a copy of the document. And it's got Oliver Stone's original signature on it. And it has Bob Vernon's signature on it. The first time that I knew about anything being planned on Kennedy, I'd heard a lot of rumors that nobody liked Kennedy. They wanted to kill Kennedy. They wanted to assassinate him. They wanted to do everything to the man.
Let every nation know, whether it wishes us well or ill, that we shall pay any price, bear any burden, meet any hardship, support any friend, oppose any foe, to assure the survival and the success of liberty.
I was upset with him over the bad pigs, but I never paid any attention to any of this at first because, everybody talks. Somebody gets mad at somebody and right away, and I'm going to take this guy out. I'm going to take that person out. Woo, 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 woo. A lot of barking, junkyard dogs barking, But I was sitting in the Harlow Grill that evening playing the pinball machine, not the flipper kind, the kind with numbers where you gamble on and you put about $10 in to play a game. And Charles Nicoletti walked in, man that I did a lot of work with, man that I respected. And he walked in the back room where I was at, says, Jimmy, let's go. I said, I'll be with you in a minute. He reached over and tilted the machine and said, let's go now. My reply was, yes, sir, Mr. Nicoletti. I knew he wasn't in no mood to wait and hang around. He said, I want to talk to you. I went out, I got in his car, and we went for a ride. He told me, he says, we're going to do a friend of yours. They're talking about President Kennedy, JFK. And I looked at him and I said, what? He says, JFK. He says, your buddy. I said, well, he just busting, giving me a hard time when he knew JFK. He knew how much I disliked the man. I looked at him and I laughed. I said, okay, fine with me. You get in arguments there. And at this point, I still kind of thought, he just joking with me. But then he got real serious about it. And then we started talking, and he told me, he says, what I'm going to want you to do, he says, I'm going to look around. He says, we'll search the area around the town here. He says, you know everything pretty good, he says, and see where we're going to do it at, what kind of weapons we're going to need, and other things like that, he says. And he mentioned, he said he was going to bring Johnny Roselli in on it. Fine with me, I don't care who we work with. I like Johnny. I had no problems with him. And originally, we'd planned to do it in the Chicago area, but certain people didn't like that idea.
All right. So this guy, the people he's talking about were at that time were big dogs in the underworld. And some of them at that time, when he was telling this story, there was always in the back of people's minds was if he talks too much, they would get rid of him because some of these guys that he was talking about were still alive at the time. And these guys were big guys in the mafia, like Johnny Roselli and the rest of these guys. What he's talking about, there is truth in that. Oliver Stone, all that stuff that this guy's talking about. Well, Oliver was doing that movie, the JFK movie with Kevin Costner or whatever it was. So and if the guy was lying, they would never be doing this interview. Because the people that were doing the interview would have checked up and seen that James Sutton's had a record, and he was there for a reason in prison, and he did probably have connections, right? Or this interview would have never taken place, really. Any investigator would have been like, this is a story, right? This guy's coming up with this. He's making it up. And he would have, the interviewer would have, if he would have done his job right, would have talked to the police. Is any of this stuff this guy's saying any truth to it at all? And they, probably would have said, well, he's here for things, he's not a good person. He was in the racket and did jobs for the mafia and bad people. And him himself was also in the military. All right, let's continue because this is kind of a long video. And we might continue it in segments. I might have to put part 1 on this.
Certain people high up in organized crime, they wasn't too happy about the idea of having something like that happen to that magnitude in their backyard, because they figured Bobby would really be down there, and they already had their own little private wars going. So then we put it off, and this is like 6 months before the assassination ever really took place. So we decided, well, we'd take it moving. So I had no idea it was going to Texas at that point, because they didn't know where he was going to go. They were looking for an area to go. They had several different locations. There was New Orleans, and I don't know, there's other places he was going to. But when it come down to it, I had been told there was places that they had planned to do it. Other people had been authorized, stuff like that. Just different rumors you hear. How much credibility is to it, I cannot say.
And describe the car.
The car was a 63 Chevy 2-door Burgundy. Chevy Impala.
With the special compartments.
Oh, we had the special compartment, the dash. We had the back seats. You could take that off, pull the bottom part out, then you raise the back up, snap it off, pull the clamps, take that out. We had the springs removed behind the seat there by it. And we had little racks welded in there so we could mount weapons in there.
Okay, so now you got your weapons, you got your loads, you got your car. How did it come together after that?
Well, just before I left, final instructions was, Chuck told me, he said, I want you to leave first thing in the morning. He says, and I don't want you driving at night. He said, I want you on the highway with a lot of traffic during daytime where nobody pays any attention to you.
Let's go back. Give me a date or approximate date.
I don't remember the approximate date, but I went down like a week before the assassination. I want to say I was in the Dallas area 5 days before the assassination took place.
And what was the purpose of that?
The purpose of that was for me to go to Dallas, look over the area, learn dead-end streets, railroad crossings, time for train crossings. They already knew the regular motorcade route that he would be taking, and they had already looked that over, and they wanted to see if there's any better places than a lot of people had already decided on. I'm not the one that chose Dealey Plaza, but I was told to look it over very close and look and see if I thought there's any other place better. And I did the whole area from the route they had all the way through. I had Lee Harvey Oswald with me.
Did you call anybody when you got to Dallas?
I made 2 telephone calls when I got there. I called Charles Nicoletti, told him that I was on the scene and where I was at in case he had to reach me. I turned around and made another phone call. I called David Atlee Phillips. I had a number to call. The call was put through to David Phillips, and he was notified where I was at, because I had not told him in advance that I was going to Dallas, Texas, because he always had to know where I was at because he was my controller. CI purposes, special operations, or something that might be needed done. We always stayed in contact. We had numbers to call. He said, thank you, and let it go at that. We didn't have any great discussion on the phone. I told him where I was at, the location, and through David Atlee Phillips is the only way that Lee Harvey Oswald could have known where I was at. I was staying at the Lamplighter Inn right there in Mesquite, Texas.
And then the next thing you knew, Lee Harvey Oswald.
The following morning, Lee Harvey Oswald was there. When he knocked on the door, I opened the door and I was shocked to see him because I didn't think anybody knew where I was at except for the other 2 people. Because Charles Nicoletti had never met Lee Harvey Oswald. He did not know him. I had known Lee Harvey Oswald prior to that. I knew him from earlier operation that we was on with David Phillips when I was running semi-automatic 45 caliber submachine guns down to Clinton, Louisiana. They were made, I think they were manufactured by Knoxville Arms. I met Lee Harvey Oswald through David Atlee Phillips. When I got down there, he introduced me to Lee. And he also instructed me that Lee could be trusted and that he was Lee's controller. He made it a statement because I wanted to know who he was dealing with and who I was giving weapons to. He also explained to me that he was Lee Harvey Oswald's controller, the same as he was mine. That he was always in contact with Lee Harvey Oswald. Through common sense tells me the only one that could have sent Lee Harvey Oswald to me was David Atlee Phillips. And so I asked Lee, I says, what the hell are you doing here? Because I was shocked, I said, I was advised to drop by and spend some time with you and see if I could help you out. I said, help me out? He said, yes. He says, somebody wants me to show you the area. And I said, okay. He said, come on in. So he come on in. So we sit down and we talked. And I stopped by with you in a few minutes. And I was young and cocky at that time. And I'd just come out of the shower and everything. And I was calling my hair. So actually, I had a camera there. So I told Lee, hey, make a couple of pictures while I'm here in Texas. And so Oswald made a couple of pictures of me. And then he said, let me have the film, I get it developed. I said, no. I said, I get the whole roll of film. So that was how I got a couple of pictures made that people have recently asked me about. We drove around Dallas, Lee Harvey Oswald and I, we drove around Dallas right before the assassination. I did not see Lee Harvey Oswald on the morning of the assassination. But prior to that, Lee Harvey Oswald had been with me every day. We drove around, he showed me different streets, different areas. He was the one that took me out to the place southeast of Mesquite there, next to a big junkyard. We went out in the field. He said, ain't nobody going to bother you out here, because I wanted to calibrate the scopes not only for the fireball, but for other weapons as well. And while I was out there firing weapons and ejecting shell casings, Lee was picking them up and holding them in his hand. But I didn't want to leave no casings or nothing behind, and I'm busy firing, so I looked at Lee, grab them casings. And that's
All right, now he's talking about a weapon that he chose specifically for this job, which is the fireball, the infamous fireball, which is practically a rifle. That's practically what it is in a handgun. It's got a very long barrel. Usually it's a bolt action, but I think they made a version of it that was semi-automatic, like it had a clip, but the first versions out of it were a bolt action, just like a bolt action rifle. And let me see if I can pull up a photo real quick. I don't know if it'll let me do this. All right, hold on a minute. Let me stop sharing this. Now I'm going to go over here to a fireball. This is the weapon that this guy chose to do the job. Let's see if I can go over here and share. All right, let's go look at this here. This is the weapon. I will post this video in. Wait a minute. I will post this video here in my chat, so you folks can go check out and see why the infamous fireball, why this guy chose it. We're going to play a little bit of this video so you can see this gun. It's a bolt action gun. It is actually like a rifle, high powered rifle. So let's check this out.
Maybe a few of my guns that I have collected over the years, and this is one of my most unique pistols, I think. I have pistols, rifles, shotguns, and everything I have is in a safe. Always keep your guns in a safe. This is called the XP 100 221 Fireball, made by Remington. The Remington XP 100 221 caliber Fireball. Beautiful design. In 1961, this design was on the drawing board. In 1963, they put this pistol out. And this particular pistol, that XP means experimental 100.
You know what? I forgot to mute. Can you guys hear okay? All right, what this guy is saying adds up to what Mr. James Sutton claimed. He claimed he chose this weapon. Now, a lot of people said bullcrap because this weapon was not produced yet. But this weapon was produced. It was being experimentally built in 1961. It was released into the public early 63, I believe. And this was top of the line. It's a bolt action. It's like a rifle, right? And it had a barrel, a rifle barrel, and the thing was just it was unreal, right? It was unbelievable. The new thing back then. All right, let's continue to listen to a little bit of this. And this time I will put it on mute.
So it uses this is a plastic stock called Zytel, or well, it uses Zytel. It's a special plastic stock, and they have taken rifles that are made with this same stock. I have some of the Remington rifles with the same type of Zytel, ZYTL stock. And they dropped them off a 1- and 2-story building, and they did not even crack. So it's kind of space age technology with this particular type of plastic. Now, you notice looking at the XP100 here, we have a ventilated rib. We have a shark fin type front sight, which is really a nice sight. You can, this is really a nice sight right here too. And we have a loophole, you may call it loophole, a Leopold scope. Leopold scopes are kind of the lower end of the more expensive scopes. A scope like this is probably about $300 for a pistol. Now, you know, rifle scopes, you have to put your eye close to the end here on rifle scopes. Pistol scopes, especially designed so you hold them straight out away from you. So you can look through them that way. But the Remington 600 bolt action is what you're looking at here pretty much. Comes from the Remington 600 bolt action. So this is a bolt action pistol. And you notice this bolt right here has kind of a very unique design to it, and a very interesting design. And so, of course, with the bolt action, you pull it up, and you can see the bottom here is flat, and it's been shaved off here, right here as well, this flat on the bolt. And it's unloaded. I've already checked that and make sure it's unloaded.
Okay, now we all can see why Mr. James Sutton chose this weapon. This thing is a bad little mofo. It's a bolt action. It's basically a high-powered rifle, but in a pistol. And at that time in 1963, this was the big thing, right? This was small. It was smaller than a rifle, but packed just as much power as a rifle. So this is why he chose that. Why is my stupid, I think I have a hacker. Why is my stupid keyboard constantly, I don't know. But this is why. Now we're going to get back to the other video of Mr. Sutton and his interview. But I wanted to show you folks what the XP100 is. And they did more work with this gun after 1963. I think they produced two models, the XP100 and an something else. But this was top of the line. So now we're going to go back to Mr. Sutton and listen more to his. Look at little Debbie said, I like it. This was a bad little mofo, especially at the range that Sutton is talking about, 35 to 50 feet away. This is very high. This would do a lot of damage, right? It would do a lot of damage. And it's got, it is a very big pistol. It's almost like what today would be the Desert Eagle 50 cal pistol or whatever they have, or whatever the Desert Eagle 45. Big giant gun, but this was really big. All right, let's stop looking at this. As you can see, the bullet, the size of the bullet it shoots. Okay, there's two of them sitting here. One of them is for this beast. All right, so let's get back to let me unshare this. And we will go back to sharing this.
What he did, he picked them, he all lumped them until we got released. I calibrated my scope, set things up, put the stuff back in the car, and we got back in. We went riding around, and I wanted to know the railroad crossings. I wanted to wait and see what time trains come through. I want to know if there's any passengers, if there was freight trains. They stopped. The track's going to be blocked. Intersection's going to be blocked. Dead-end streets, construction work, where every intersection was at, where all the lights were at, how long the lights were. They stayed red. I wanted all these little details. He worked in the book depository stores, what he told me. I was never in that place, but he had time off to come out and spend time with me, and then I would drop him off in the area, and he would go somewhere, and I guess that's where he went. I had never asked him where he went, what he done, who he saw.
The world will never know the true facts of what occurred, my motives. The people that had so much to gain and had such an ulterior motive for putting me in a position I'm in will never let the true facts come above board to the world.
Now, these people are in very high positions, Jack?
Yes.
All right, enter Jack Ruby. Why did Jack Ruby come into this? Well, because they caught one of the guys, right? Lee Harvey Oswald, which he knew he was going to talk. So Jack Ruby was someone that was affiliated with the mafia and people that were setting up this whole thing, a conspiracy with CIA, mafia, numerous people. Why do people say that conspiracies do not exist? I have no idea. But was there something in the works, whether it be through mafia or corrupt CIA, whatever? Something definitely bad happened that day. Excuse me. Let's get back to listening to this.
I had met Johnny Roselli before. I'd met him in Florida, Miami.
Any jobs with him?
Never any jobs with him. I'd talk with him and around, but we never, we was probably involved in some of the same operations or things, but with the same people, but we never went out and did anything together.
Were you aware that Roselli was working with the government against in anti-Castro?
Yes, I was well aware that Johnny Roselli was involved in the government actions. He was like the liaison between CIA and organized crime, and he was heavily involved in the invasion of Cuba, Bay of Pigs, Chianos Bay, whichever you prefer to call it. But he was also very tight with Frank Sturgis. Frank Sturgis headed up the SAO, which is the secret army organization, what this is all about. And they've had so many different code names for wanting to kill Castro. I couldn't even name half of them. But every time you turned around, somebody had a new operation going.
So tell us about the trip over to Fort Worth.
The trip over to Fort Worth, Johnny Roselli went there to meet somebody by the name of Jack Ruby. I had never knew Jack Ruby, nothing about him. When I got there and pulled into the parking lot, Johnny Roselli told me, he said, let me go in first, see where I'm going to sit, come in, position your stuff. And he asked me, he said, are you carrying? And I said, yeah, I'm carrying. He says, good. He says, when I sit down where I'm sitting at, he said, I don't know what may transpire. He said, something could go wrong. He said, but be very alert. He said, keep my backside covered. He said, I won't be in your line of fire. And I said, okay, I pick up open field of fire. He says, wherever I figure I can handle it. I said, I'll go sit down. I'll come in position myself. Johnny Roselli went in and they had like, you call it a booth at the table sitting there, it wasn't bolted to the floor or nothing. But he sat down in that and I went in shortly right behind him. I positioned myself at the counter, ordered a cup of coffee, was served, and sit there. And then I sit there and I watched until short, stocky built man come in, walked over. Johnny got up. They shook hands. They sit down. They talked for a couple of minutes. I seen him take like a half size, like a legal envelope, but only half that size, out of his jacket, and he pushed it across the table to Johnny Roselli. He got up. They shook hands. This man left. Johnny waited maybe 2 minutes. Johnny looked at me. I got up. I walked out of the restaurant, made sure the area's clear, nobody outside in the parking lot. I went over, got in the car, started up. I pulled up by the door. Johnny Roselli walked out, got in the car, and we drove away.
Did you ask him or did you find out in some way what was in the envelope?
On the way back to Dallas, Johnny and me was riding down the road. He didn't open the envelope right away. We got almost, I think it's Arlington. It's about halfway there. I'm saying halfway. It could be less one way or the other. Been a long time for me. But we was right about Arlington. And Johnny opened the envelope up, started taking stuff out and looking at it. Excuse me. He's looking at it. I'm noticing over. I'm watching over while I'm driving. And he's got these little black wallets, like half-sided, like identification wallets. And he opened them up, and there's identification plates on them, and there's badges on them. At that point, I didn't know what the identification on it was because he's sitting there looking at it, and I'm not going to lead over. I'm not going to say, give me one of those or anything like that. I'll wait when they want me to know, he'll tell me. And then he opened up a piece of paper, and he unfolded it. And there's been a lot of discrepancy over this part now. But Johnny Roselli said they only made one change in the route. And there was a map of Dealey Plaza, the motorcade route. When he looked at it for Dealey Plaza, he said they've only made one alter, one change in it. He said, that's all. And I said, what's that? And he said, they're going to go down Elm Street. But I already had reconned the area, so I knew what he was talking about. And I know everybody said, well, the matter that they had the motorcade in the newspaper weeks and months ahead of time. True, they did, but they didn't have that one change.
Zero accounting software helped put me on the right path. It's easy to find your numbers all in one place and get a clearer financial picture. So find the power in your numbers and open the...
Sorry about that.
How did Roselli get to Dallas?
At that point, Roselli, he mentioned to me, Johnny Roselli, we was on the way to Fort Worth. And I asked him, when did you get in? He said, I got in this morning. He said, I got in early this morning. He said, I hadn't been here a couple hours. And I said, how'd you get in? And he said he got lucky. He caught a ride on a plane that's sponsored by the Central Intelligence Agency, the CIA. I said, how the hell did you manage that one? He said, I got lucky. He's had somebody there. I didn't ask no more. He didn't elaborate any more than that. I didn't dig any deeper than that. I still don't know that he's there on an abort mission. I have no knowledge of that at this point of the game. Johnny Roselli got out of the car, went back in the hotel. I waited maybe 5 to 7 minutes for Charles Nicoletti to come down. When he got down, Mr. Nicoletti got in the car with me and said, let's go. We took off. I says, where to? He said, take me over by the plaza. We went over. We parked. It's drizzling rain. We get out. We're walking around. This is the first time that Charles Nicoletti has even mentioned to me about an abort team. While we're walking around, Charles Nicoletti asked me, he says, how do you feel about being backup? I said, what do you mean backup? He said, how would you feel about being backup as a shooter for me? I said, what happened to Johnny? What's with Johnny? And he said, Johnny's a little bit paranoid on this. He says, the CIA's called a hit off. He said, well, he doesn't want to go against the orders of the CIA. He said, what he wants to call off. He said, he flew in here as an abort team. He said, they flew a plane here specially with him on it to tell us to call it off. He said, they don't want the hit to go down. And I said, well, what'd you say? Chuck's exact words were, it's going anyway. And I told him, I said, what about Johnny? He said, well, Johnny will be with me. He says, but he's not going to be a shooter. He said, he doesn't want to go against the orders. He said, he's been told he flew in here specifically to abort this assassination. And so I asked him at that point, I said, what'd you say? I said, it's a go. He said, we're going to do it. He said, Jimmy, he says, you know, we can't call this off. Only one man can stop it. He was referring to Sam Giancana. He was the number 2 man at that time. A lot of people's going to tell you he was number 1, but not true. Tony Accardo was still running things. He turned things over. He had Sam Giancana running all this operation, everything, but Tony Accardo was still the man, and he was still calling the shots on whatever went down, whatever was done. I knew of no other crime family being involved. I heard rumors, but do I know if anybody else was involved? No, I do not know if anybody else was involved. Okay. They would have been out of character for them to even notify me about that or anybody else. That only stays up in the higher ranks of the family or the people or the crime family, whoever you wish to describe it. About 10:30 a.m., Mr. Nicoletti told me he asked me to be the backup shooter. And that was the first inkling of anything that I would ever be involved in the assassination itself. Prior to that, I was only know the area and transport weapons. It started clearing about 10:45, I believe, the best I can remember. I could be off a few minutes. I know it'd been drizzling rain, it was cold, it was damp. Sun didn't come out until after 11 a.m., I believe. And I told Johnny, I said, yes, I'd be honored. I told Mr. Nicoletti, I said, I would be honored to back you on it. I said, anything you ask, I'll do. And he asked me where I thought it would be the best place for him. And I told him the Dow Tech building, because the Dow Tech building gave him a better shot with him taking the straight run through at a high rate of speed. And evidently, I'm quite certain that they had all this prearranged on that part of it, as that place is his location, and for him and Johnny as far as that goes, because they already had made an arrangements to be admitted into the building. Oh, he didn't check it. He just asked my opinion. He has always questioned me about different things. He used me like a sounding board. Like maybe, you're in business or in the office, you might ask one of your people around you, what do you think about this? You don't really care what he thinks. You're just asking for an opinion to see what he thinks. Maybe you overlook something, or maybe somebody's got a better idea than you do at this time of the game. He respected me for my knowledge of weapons, my knowledge of knowing terrain, because I'd been in combat. And the first thing you walk into an area is, to you it's a landscape. To me it's terrain. Because if I walk into an ambush, I want to know where the low spots are, the high spots are, where all the coverage is. I got to know where I can get my rear end down so I don't get shot off. You got to have a place to go to ground in a hurry. You cannot afford to stand around and be looking around and wondering, gee, where can I go from here? You do, you're dead. You got to think. That's why you take all this training in the military. You're trained not to think, but to react.
Using the information inside of this free book, I bought this property here, a piece of land.
Mr. Nicoletti asked me, said, if you back me up, Jimmy, he says, oh, where do you think it'd be the best spot for you? I said, well, the spot I like best is up on the grassy knoll behind that stockade fence. He says, why there?
Sorry about that, ladies and gentlemen.
I said, my clothes, I can turn my jacket inside out. I said, it's plaid on the inside. It looks like railroad workers. Somebody out there wearing a flannel shirt. Nobody's going to pay no attention to me. I said, I can go over there. I can walk around a piece of chalk, walk up and down by boxcars, cross the railroad tracks, look at things. I'd just be another worker. Nobody'd even look at me. And he said, okay. He says, what weapon are you going to use over there? And I told him, and Chuck, I said, well, what's the situation? Chuck said, we're going for a headshot now. I said, this, I understand. I realize this. He said, you're not going to fire unless it becomes a necessity. He says, if I miss, he said, then it's going to be up to you. He said, but you don't fire. He said, unless I miss. He said, it's going to be your call at that point. He said, so you got to be very alert on this. And I told him, don't worry about me. I said, I got it, boss. And he said, what are you going to use? I said, I'm going to use the fireball. And he looked at me and says, why? Why the fireball? Now, the fireball, for people who don't know what a fireball is, it's like a cut-down rifle. It's actually basically this long. The weapon was well ahead of its time. This was one of the prototypes the agency had got a hold of that had been manufactured by Remington. Now, a lot of people are going to tell you that this particular weapon was not available at that time, but this weapon was available. It didn't go on sale until a few years later. But this weapon had been manufactured as early as 1961. We had a lot of trouble with the barrel blowing up on it, used too big a round on it or something, overloads in it. A lot of problems with it, but they finally reinforced the barrel. We got it where it worked pretty good. And Chuck asked me, he says, why the fireball? So you've only got one shot, because the Remington Fireball 222 is a single shot bolt action pistol. You can mount a scope on it. So, well, if I'm going to wait until you're through, I said, I'm only going to get one shot anyway, so it don't really matter. I said, because I'll never get a chance for a second shot if I wait until the last possible moment. He said, okay. He said, it's your call.
Where'd you get hold of a prototype weapon like the XP-100?
It was given to me by David Phillips. I'd received this maybe a year prior, 8 months, year prior to the assassination. The gun had been used twice before on assassinations, but nobody like a president or nothing. But it was good for using. You want to get into a close place area or somewhere, somebody might say, well, why use a pistol? Well, anybody that knows their weapons, this particular piece itself is very accurate, up to 100 yards. At 100 feet, I'm talking about we're shooting now from the grassy knoll down to the highway to the street there. We're talking roughly 30, 35 yards. We're only talking 100 feet. This is like shooting fish in a barrel, and especially a little 3-power scope on it. But the weapon had been used before, but you could put it in a briefcase. You could walk anywhere with it. Nobody paying attention to it. The case that I had set up, I had a little loading press inside for it, in case I had to manufacture anything. I had a little holder for all the special rounds that were in it. Everything was packed in foam rubber inside. The case was watertight, waterproof.
What the case looked like?
The case was black. It was like an oversized briefcase, basically speaking. And handle on a little metal flaps on it, for locking it up. You could lock the case, but I wasn't concerned about locking it. But the thing is, you could go anywhere. You look like a businessman with it. And I thought that was the best weapon to go with. And so Mr. Nicoletti agreed with me on it. He said, okay, it's your call, Jimmy.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to leave it right there. And I'm going to hurry up real quick. And I'm going to put down here in the title. Good. Come on, you stupid keyboard. Oh, I hate this stupid keyboard. What? Probably the USB. It's a brand new keyboard. Stupid USB. All right, part 1. And we will return once again for the rest of this video, which I found this was a very interesting video. This proves what everybody thinks is, oh, you're a conspiracy therapist or whatever it is. But in real life, these things exist. And you would be a fool not to believe that they don't exist. I'm not saying everything is a conspiracy, but they are real and they are used in bad things, right? Happy birthday, Jim Morrison. So we are going to leave it there. Let me check the time on this channel. 1 hour, or we're at 36 minutes and 10 seconds into the video, and there's an hour and 30 minutes. We will be back with part 2, but do I believe anything that this guy is saying? I would have to be, because this interview would have never taken place. The news place would have never wasted their time. There had to be some truth to what Mr. James Sutton was saying, or this interview would have never taken place. Can we agree on that, right? Can we agree on that, ladies and gentlemen? They wouldn't have wasted their time if there was no truth in this. So the guy must have some knowledge or have been there. Now, I will be back with a fire tonight. A nice fire. You're welcome to join me. And you're welcome to join me on part 2 of the JFK assassin files. You ladies and gentlemen, have a great night. Be safe. You all have the right to believe what you want to believe. You don't have to believe in conspiracies. You don't have to believe in anything. Me as a person, I choose to believe that these things are real. They occur. We've all seen it. Even when you went to high school with other people that didn't like you, they would start rumors, big conspiracies, and yada, yada, yada. So this was on a bigger scale than some high schoolers' conspiracy against somebody to spread lies or whatever, you know. Now, you folks have a great night. God bless. All glory goes to God. And I will be back later with a nice fireplace video to chill. Ooh, and let me unshare this. Ooh, I hit the thing trying to hook up this stupid, this is a brand new keyboard. It's got to be that stupid UBS cord that connects to this keyboard UBS thing. I must have stepped on it or something. I got to get it. You folks have a good night. God bless, and I'll be back.